Hi guys. So for this week's video, we have to answer three different questions. So the first question is regarding our thoughts on inclusion. And after reading from the book and watching the video lecture and doing the other readings and watching the other videos that we had this week, I think that first of all, one of the readings was talking about how we kind of focus too much on the specific environment that the student is in and not enough on other aspects such as like is the teacher doing a good job of teaching this specific student with a disability, and is the student getting all the supports that they need, like the formal supports and the natural supports of like family, friends, and community and stuff. Instead of focusing on those aspects, it seems like we're focusing too much on should the student be in this specific environment or this specific environment, and focusing like solely on that. And like while the environment is important, um, it's just as important as those other aspects, which are sometimes overlooked. Um, and the environment becomes the most important thing. So that's one of my thoughts. And then my other thought on inclusion is that it really just depends on the student, and I think that it shouldn't be thought of as so black and white, like all students with disabilities would do better just being fully included in the general education classroom or partially included in the general education classroom, or that all students with disabilities should spend the whole day in the special education room, and that like one of these things fits all the different students. I think that it's really dependent on the student and maybe how severe their disability is and how much it's affecting their learning. So, if the disability is more severe and they're really struggling, it might be better for them to spend the day in the special education classroom as opposed to spending the day in the general education classroom, or vice versa. So the second question is, what are the roles of the general education teacher? And on page 67 in our book, it talks a lot about this. And some of the roles of the general education teacher, according to our book, is identifying and referring students who may be in need of additional support to succeed in an inclusive setting, understanding each student's individual strengths and limitations and the effects on learning, implementing an appropriate individualized education program that is focused on supporting student success in the general education curriculum, communicating and collaborating with the special education teacher, and initiating and maintaining ongoing communication with parents. Um, so kind of just to sum that up, I would say that the general education teacher's role is pretty similar to their role with any student, not just specifically to a student with a disability. Any student, the teacher should be as involved as he or she can be, and should have some kind of relationship with the parents, and should be letting the parents know how the student is doing, and should know the student's strengths and weaknesses and how they're doing. So the only additional thing is that they should really be collaborating with the special education teacher. I think that's so important. I think that the special education teacher should know what's going on in the general classroom, and that the general education teacher should know what's going on in the special education classroom. And it's just going to help the student to stay on track because the teachers are going to know what's going on in both environments. Um, and then the last question is, how should we be training general education teachers? And my personal opinion on this is I think that every general education teacher should have some kind of training in special education. Maybe not necessarily a degree, but at least take one class, if not more, probably more classes. I know that I want to be a high school English teacher, and I'm sure that at some point in my career, if I end up being a teacher, that I will have some kind of experience where there's a student in my class who has some sort of intellectual disability, and having taken this class and hopefully taking other classes in the future that are like this one, it'll be more helpful for me to better help that student. So I just think it's really important. And also, if a general education teacher is going to collaborate with a special education teacher, if they've never taken any classes on a disability classes like this, um, they're not going to know what the special education teacher is doing or how they do anything, so they can't really collaborate with the special education teacher or understand them at all. So yeah, that is my thoughts on those 3 questions for this week. Thanks for watching.